So I really like the desk that you built me. Can you please build me a bed?
This time, I almost said no. And not because I didn't want to build a bed for her, because she wanted me to build this exact bed that she found on Anthropology. I think in that situation, you're better off just buying the bed versus spending probably more money to build the exact same thing. So I told her we could just go ahead and buy it, but if she wanted me to build a bed, I would need to be able to design it myself instead of just copying something that she saw online. At first, she was okay with just buying a bed, but a couple weeks went by, she came back to me and she said she really wanted me to make it, which of course made me really happy. And for me, there's nothing better than building something for my family. And her reaction when she sees it for the first time makes all of the design challenges that I had, the expensive mistake that I made, the extra time it took to build this while I'm also in the middle of doing a kitchen remodel, it made all of that so worth it.
Oh my God!
So I sat down and started designing, and I used the bed that she wanted at Anthropology as a starting point for this bed, but I also wanted it to be cohesive with that desk that I built her earlier, so I'm gonna use some of the same elements from that build to carry over to this one. I am gonna stick with those curved ends for the Anthropology bed, but then that's pretty much where the similarities between the two beds will end. And to tie into the boho theme of Chloe's room, I created this arch pattern for the headboard, and that's gonna be backed with some rattan. All right, so just like I did with my daughter's desk, I'm using walnut and maple for this build. And this time I chose to go ahead and have them surface it on two sides and straight line rip it. It wasn't perfect. I did have to do some additional milling, a little bit of jointing, and some planing to get it to the proper thickness. But now I'm all ready to begin putting this bed together. I've already got those maple bed frame pieces cut to final width, and I wanted to make sure the ends where the frame boards butt up against each other were perfectly square. I have several panel glue-ups to do on this build, and I'm using these Rockler panel clamps to do all of them. And these are fantastic because not only do they provide clamping pressure from each side, but they also squeeze the boards into alignment at the same time. So when I built that round dining table that has the twisted base, I had to joint a large slab and it didn't go very well. And a lot of you folks suggested that I use the CNC to do those joining operations. And the reason why I didn't do that on that build was because I was concerned with how well that joint would line up if I didn't have all my speeds and feeds dialed in correctly, and if that cut quality off the CNC wasn't perfect. But these boards were so long that I really had no other option. And I've got to say, those of you that suggested I try joining on the CNC, you guys were right. These glue-ups went smoothly, and this will be my go-to method of joining any long or extra heavy material from now on. It often seems like the comment section for these videos is just the playground of trolls. Sometimes it really is. But in reality, a lot of the comments I get are very supportive. They're often very helpful. And I just want to say thanks to all of you for that. Well, except for trolls like this keyboard warrior complaining about my music choices. Okay, switching gears, I designed these drawers to swing out of the nightstands, and for these, I'll use some Baltic birch plywood. For the drawer carcasses, I'm gonna be stacking up these curved pieces of maple that are from that panel that I glued up earlier. And I still get folks telling me that I'm not a real woodworker because I use the CNC, and honestly, I don't care. But why wouldn't I wanna work smarter and more efficiently if I have this machine in my shop? I've got the ability to make a template, and then I can mark everything out, cut all these curved end pieces on the bandsaw, flush trim everything to the template, but I think it makes way more sense to do whatever is the most efficient while also opening up the most creativity, and for me, that's using the CNC. Here I'm cutting the walnut stretchers that frame the headboard and where the curved end piece is attached to, and this is one aspect of the build where I didn't spend enough time in that design phase to properly plan out how everything was gonna go together. I just planned on using some dominoes to glue up the curved end pieces to the stretchers, and then I figured that CA glue trick that I use all the time, where it acts as a clamp while the wood glue dries, would work. And right about here is where I had an idea. This was not going well, but I just tried to soldier on anyways, thinking that it would all be fine. Switching gears back to the large panel for the headboard, I took it out of the clamps and cleaned up all that glue squeeze out. Okay, it's time to carve that headboard. I put a lot of time and effort into creating the file. I'm really happy with it. I've got the glue up, everything's ready to go. I just have to hope at this point that I've covered all my bases and I don't mess this up, which would mean that I would have to go back to the lumber store, get more wood, do another glue up. That's not gonna happen. We're not even gonna wish that upon ourselves. We're just gonna go ahead and let her rip. This headboard is my favorite part of this whole build, and it's really gonna be a big focal point of this bed. Now, this is a lot to carve, but here I'm using a 1/2-inch bit and I'm cutting 3/8 inch deep at a time. Also, my machine runs an almost 9 horsepower spindle. I've got it running at 17,000 RPMs, and that's all running off of 3-phase power. So yeah, this beast is powerful. Speaking of being powerful, let me take a second to talk about the Anker 757 Powerhouse, the sponsor of today's video. I've been using Anker products for years, their chargers, their battery banks, and I was so excited to get my hands on this Anker 757 Powerhouse. This is an electric power station with a 1500 watt output and a 1229 watt hour capacity. And with its hyper fast charging, you can charge the Anker 757 Powerhouse to 80% in 1 hour. And the Anker 757 is great for all sorts of scenarios, such as camping. Imagine running your coffee maker, maybe a small fridge, your laptop, your phone, all of that for days without having to lug a loud, smelly generator to the campsite. And the Anker 757 has 610 volt plugs, 4 USB-A plugs, 2 USB-C plugs, and a car outlet. And if you're looking for something maybe on the smaller side, check out the Anker 521 or the 535. And those feature the same long-lasting battery, but with smaller capacity. With industry-grade, durable electronic components and the most advanced long-lasting batteries, the Anker 757 Powerhouse keeps going even after 3,000 charging cycles. And it has 6 times the battery lifespan of the industry average. And that's the kind of reliability that I need living here in Oklahoma with those spring tornadoes and those winter ice storms, which means we could be stuck without power for days. And all of that comes with a 5-year guarantee. And I haven't even mentioned my favorite part. With the Anker 757 Powerhouse, I can have a mobile job site and run my Corda tools and recharge my tool batteries right out of the back of my truck. Just click my link down below or search Anker 757 Powerhouse. Thanks to Anker for sponsoring this video. Finishing up this section of the headboard, I added a round over to the arches and then spent what felt like an eternity hand sanding all the crevices left behind. Getting back to the nightstands, I'm gluing up the plywood swing out drawers in layers, and I'm also assembling the drawer/nightstand carcasses from those strips of maple that I cut earlier. So on that headboard where the ends curve around, they're gonna be connected top to bottom with some dowels. I got on Amazon and purchased 2 bags of these hardwood dowels. I'm not sure that they're actually maple, but they're close enough that it should be okay. Now the problem is almost none of them are straight. Luckily, I have 30, I need 20, so I'm gonna go through and pick out the 20 straightest ones, and then I need to cut them down to size. They're 3/4 inch dowels. They don't quite fit into those holes, so I'm gonna have to do a little sanding to make it fit. So like I've mentioned, this bed needs to be knockdown construction so I can take it apart, transport it upstairs, down a hallway, make a turn, and get it into my daughter's bedroom. So what I can't do is just glue this whole frame together. Initially, I was gonna try these. These are furniture connecting bolts. I did some tests off camera, and I just didn't like the durability of these. It just wasn't working very well. So what I did was I went out, I bought this set of Festool connectors that work in conjunction with my Festool domino mortiser, and you can use these to create knockdown furniture joinery. I've actually already tested a piece and I messed up this middle one, so there's only 2 connectors there, and this thing is rock solid. So with 3, like I'm gonna do on here, I'm really confident with the strength of these joints. So you'll see we flip the bed over and we're actually gonna do the joinery from the bottom side, because you do have to drill that hole so you can get to the connector. connector. We've got everything flipped over. I've done my test, and we're ready to do it. These Festool furniture fasteners are pretty easy to use, and this isn't sponsored or anything. I bought these with my own money. I was just looking for the best solution to put this bed together, and this ended up being it. So after you cut all those domino mortises, this jig here slips into that mortise, connects to some dust collection, and then you drill a hole with a special bit that's gonna allow me to drop in the cam bolt. Now, one side of the joint gets these steel domino inserts with a screw-on shank, and then the other side gets spacers, and that's what holds the cam nut in place. And as you screw that shank in place, there's a washer on the back side of that little domino insert. It pulls it through and it wedges that domino in place. You can also see that there's a divot on the shank, and this is gonna be what the grub screw grabs onto and secures everything together. And right here, you can see just how well it's pulling this butt joint together. So this is rattan, also called chair weave. Does it have any other names? Cane webbing. Is it called chair weave or is that something different? I made that up. It's called rattan, otherwise known as cane weaving, and other names that I might make up. This is what I'm gonna back the headboard with. This is so I can really kind of lean into that boho style that my daughter really likes. It is exceptionally light, but I asked my daughter, do you want me to stain it? Because I personally think a dark stain on this would look really good, and she was adamant that I do not stain it, so we're not even gonna attempt that. So what I'm gonna do is actually use wood glue, and I'm gonna glue this to the back of this headboard panel. Normally, when working with rattan, you would soak it, you would stretch it, there would be a groove cut back in the back. We would take some reed, shove it down into the groove, and then stretch it across. We're not gonna do any of that. We're gonna straight wing it. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of get it laid out how I want it. Throw some clamps on there to hold everything in place temporarily. Now my plan is to glue it all up and then flip it over. And then obviously I can clamp it down to the workbench. This is my epoxy pouring workbench, so the glue won't stick to the UHMW top. Jeff, how the heck are we gonna flip this thing over when we get it all? By hand. We're not gonna use a forklift. These are not the proper scissors for this. These things suck. Once we got it flipped, I clamped down one side while Jeff stretched out the rattan the best he could. And this is really important because you don't want the rattan to sag or be loose on any of those spots where it's showing through the panel. The following day, I was a bit nervous about pulling this off the table. I was worried there might be a chance that when I pulled this up, some of it could stick to the table and the rattan would be pulled off the back, but thankfully it came off the table without any issues. And the rattan held really well with some wood glue, and now I can trim off the excess. I am gonna say the wood glue does not look good dried on the back of the rattan, but at the same time, I didn't wanna have to put another panel across the back that's gonna hide something that no one's gonna see anyways, since this headboard is gonna be up against the wall. All right, on to the glue up, and if you've ever done a stressful glue up, you know how frustrating they can be, and this one absolutely takes the cake for me. When I did my dry fit of this assembly off camera, everything went together like a breeze, but once it was go time and I added wood glue, everything went to hell. Putting in dowels on one side super simple, but then trying to get 20 dowels to line up across a 7-foot span all at once was an absolute nightmare. And then I was so focused on getting the dowels lined up and in place, I didn't notice that the whole headboard was slightly twisted, but I just powered on through and left this problem for future Johnny, believing that somehow he was gonna figure it out and get this headboard properly aligned. So the following day, as I was taking the headboard out of the clamps, I knew that this wasn't gonna work. So I did the next best thing to trying to figure out how to fix it, I decided to put it out of my mind and work on something else, which I'm making these bed legs out of some 2-inch maple dowels. So on these leg dowels, I need to drill a center hole so I can put in the all thread. And I realized since these are 2 inches, I could use one of these. This is called a 1-2-3 block, and the reason why is it's 1 inch thick, 2 inches wide, and 3 inches tall. These are used a lot for, like machining, metalworking, that sort of thing. But I can just take this. I know it's 1 inch, mark a line right there, roll it 90 degrees, mark another line. I've got perfect center. So I've had about a day to think on it, and I think I've got a solution for fixing the headboard. This isn't working. These end pieces are, as you can see, not stable at all. I have to go back to the drawing board, and I have no other choice but to go ahead and remake these. So one of the issues that I get into, because I build one-off pieces, I don't get the chance to iterate a design over and over so I can get the most efficient processes. So a lot of the stuff I'm just trying to think of what I believe the best method of joinery or putting this all together would be. Even though I try to think of everything and kind of build it in my head multiple times, often there's issues that arise during the build. And on this one, the way we glue this up, you can see, like I can probably go ahead and pull it apart. That is not a stable joint. Just like I used those knockdown fasteners on the bed frame, I think that's what I need to do here. Another issue was that when I did this whole glue up, I'm gluing up these ends and the top and everything all at once. It kind of got everything kind of twisted. You can even see right here where the whole frame got twisted. The headboard piece isn't lined up. So not only do I need to remove the ends, I need to cut this off. I had to go to the lumber yard and purchase more walnut, spent another $300 in materials to do so. And I'm just gonna completely remake these ends, even if it wasn't for my daughter. It's really important to get things right. If I was building for any client, I would want this to be the best thing I could possibly build. But since it is for my daughter, that pressure is there even more. Like I need this to be absolutely perfect and something she can use for years and years to come. So now that I've gone through this process, I think I'm set up really well to know the best processes to get this done as strong and efficiently as possible. It's hot as hell. So I'm gonna stop talking, get the building, and go turn the fan on. As a testament to how bad that glue up went, these stretchers came off way too easy. I should have had to cut these off, but they popped right off with a chisel. So I'm really glad at this point that I've got to remake this because I know it's going to turn out much stronger the next time around. After sanding off the dried glue, I can glue these stretchers back on independently of the curved end pieces, and this is really going to ensure that I get everything aligned this time. This also allowed me to rethink the joinery method between the headboard panel and those curved end pieces. And those festool connectors were working so well for the frame that I decided I was just gonna use these everywhere else in this bed. And this whole thing is truly gonna be knockdown construction, and I can easily transport it and set it all up again. Another element that I overlooked and left to future Johnny to figure out was the support for the drawer/nightstand. Now, originally I would have had to cut something else and glue it on to the curved end piece to act as a support for the drawer. And this was because I was really trying to be economical with the amount of walnut that I was using because it's so expensive. But this time around, I'm cutting the bottom curves and the drawer supports all as one piece, so I don't have to awkwardly glue on a support later on. And if you're wondering why I'm up on top of my CNC, it's because the last piece that I carved came loose and got damaged by the bit, so Here I am trying to hold this piece in place and prevent it from happening, and I've got to jump over the gantry when it's done cutting. And remember, don't try this at home. This is not safe. I am a professional, or at least like a level 3 novice. Okay, moving on. This glue up was way less stressful this time since I can really focus on each end piece individually. The dowels are still a pain in the ass to get in, but at least this time I didn't have 2 ends to glue up all at once. I also cut some of these spacer blocks so I could know that the end pieces were sized perfectly to match the headboard, and also this allowed them to stay parallel to one another. Once those had dry, I could cut in the mortises for those festal connectors, and this joint by itself wouldn't be super strong, but once you connect the frame to the headboard and you've got the slats and the whole bed is together, it's gonna be really strong. So to do that, Jeff and I flipped the whole assembly upside down and clamped the frame pieces in place so I could mark my domino locations. Another thing to note about these is that you have to cut 2 different depths of mortises on either side of that connector. Now, this just requires a little bit of extra planning, but the shank side gets a 15mm deep hole, and the cam nut side gets a 28mm deep hole, and then you have to drill that extra hole to drop in those cam nuts. I've also got these positioned on the underside, so all of my fasteners are gonna be hidden, well, except for the ones that are gonna be on top of the headboard, but I'll come back and plug those with some walnut plugs once the bed is assembled at the house. This is also a good time to add the threaded inserts for the legs to screw into, and I really like using this Rockler drill guide. It really ensures that I get perfectly 90-degree holes drilled every time. These inserts fit really tight and didn't require any extra glue or epoxy. They worked fantastic. I'll make sure I'll link these and all the other products that I use down below. So I cut the remaining mortises, installed the needed hardware, and put the headboard and frame together for the first time. To make the drawer faces for the nightstand swing out drawers, I'm using some more walnut, and if you watched that desk video, you saw how in that video I also combined maple and walnut, but the focus of that build was on the walnut. But Chloe wanted her bed to be lighter, so maple is going to be the main focus of this piece, with walnut being the accent. And I'm making walnut drawer fronts with white epoxy, and this is going to kind of tie into the maple drawer fronts on the desk that also had a white epoxy inlay. Before pouring any epoxy, I'm sealing the walnut with some Total Boat Gleam varnish, and then I mixed up a small batch of Total Boat High Performance epoxy and then mixed in some white pigment. Now you guys know Total Boat is a longtime sponsor of this channel. I've got links for all the Total Boat products that I use, as well as a discount code for 10% off at totalboat.com. Another longtime sponsor of this channel is Rockler, and throughout this video you see me use a bunch of their products like those panel clamps and the drill guide, some other things. I'll make sure I'll have links for all of those down below as well. Both Total Boat and Rockler not only make amazing, useful products, but they're also big supporters of not only my channel, but the entire maker community, so I'm really proud to work with both of them. Now, I still get a handful of comments complaining about advertising in my videos, but please understand, this is my business. This is how I make money. I spend a lot of time on these projects. I spend a lot of time editing these videos. I've been doing this for 4 years now, all while still having a full-time day job as well, but that's actually about to change. I'm only a few short months away from retiring from my day job, and then I'll be doing Johnny Builds full-time. I'll ask if you enjoy these videos and the things that I make and the occasional corny dad joke. I'll ask that you get subscribed, turn on the notifications, watch my new videos when they drop, as this is the best way to support what I do, and I want to thank each and every one of you that have supported me so far. Proper way to tie a tie. Okay, these strips are going to attach to the frame and support the slats that the mattress rests on. Those epoxy inlays on the drawers is dry, and I can sand away the excess epoxy and then add a round over to the drawer front. I made a drilling template on the CNC so I can drill holes for these nylon bushings, and these are going to support the 3/8 inch steel rod that the swing out drawer is going to hinge on. I also added a couple nylon washers that are gonna act as some spacers. I have to put the drawers in place before I can glue everything up, and then I needed to cut some more maple that is gonna be the sides of the drawer box. I'm gluing on the drawer faces with some wood glue and CA glue. It actually worked this time. And I marked the center to drill for the hardware, which I found these little brass pulls on Amazon, and I think they look awesome with this piece. One of the last pieces for this bed is the center stretcher that's gonna help support the slats and the mattress. And this is gonna get connected to each end with more of those Festool connectors. And again, you can see here how well they pull that joint together securely. I had to cut down those threaded inserts that would fit on that center support, and then I added 3 of those to the center support while I add 3 support legs. These are all gonna be hidden under the bed and really help support the mattress and make everything rock solid. All that remains is to give everything a final sanding and add finish. I'm finishing this bed with Total Boat Wood Honey, which is a great finish for a bed like this, especially since it's gonna be where my daughter sleeps and it contains 0 VOCs. It's food safe as well. I don't recommend eating off a bed frame, although I'm positive Chloe will do exactly that at some point. We brought the bed to the house and put it together in her room, as well as staged everything. And so far, Chloe hasn't seen any of the progress. She has no idea what this bed looks like other than that original 3D model that I showed her. She's living at home right now while she's about to start her 2nd year of college, and we just want to make sure she has a comfortable, productive, cozy space to live and do her schoolwork. A lot of time and energy went into building this bed. I'm guessing a custom piece like this bed going to the right client could fetch a pretty hefty price tag, but I get something so much more valuable. The look on Chloe's face when she sees this bed for the first time. You ready to go see your new bed?
Yeah.
Come on, cover your eyeballs.
I don't know where I'm going. You gotta go.
I got you. Okay, don't open your eyes. Keep going. Keep going. And turn around. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god, those are so much prettier than I thought they were going to be. Oh my god! Oh, it looks so good. Oh my god, that's exactly what I wanted. Oh my gosh!
The headboard gets kind of covered up by the pillows, but
Oh, it's so pretty.
look out with
It's so good.
So the maple, whenever I put finish on it, it darkened up.
It
So
looks
you are
so
right.
good.
Leaving this light, that contrast looks really, really good.
Ooh. Oh my gosh, that is so exciting. Let's try and Yay! Mwah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let me know what you think down in the comments below. As always, thanks for checking this one out, and I'll see you back here next time.